Against David Hume, as we saw in Lecture 8, Hume attacked things which, miracles and things of that sort. Now, the practical consequences in 19th century England was that the loss of faith meant loss of job. Oxford and Cambridge were officially and actually Christian, that is to say, Anglican Church of England institutions. The established church was really established. Theology and new biblical criticism in Germany had begun to erode the foundations of revealed religion from within. As we saw in Lecture 23 on George Eliot, the work of David Friedrich Strauss caused a sensation. His Das Leben Jesu, The Life of Jesus, which she translated, applied the myth theory to the life of Jesus, treated the gospel narrative like any other historical work, and denied all supernatural elements in the gospel. Now, this crisis of faith led to an Anglican reaction which turned to less rational ways than those expressed in Paley's logical evidences. The Oxford movement is associated with the Reverend Edward Bouverie Pusey, its leader, who wanted to return the Church of England to Roman Catholic origins and to reject Paley's soulless reasoning. The most important figure in the Oxford movement was John Henry Cardinal Newman, who was born in 1801 and died in 1890, who wrote the hymn Lead Kindly Light and other hymns. In 1841, Newman published Tract 90, demonstrating that the 39 articles, the formulary of faith of the Church of England, were consistent with Catholicism, and in 1845 he was received into the Roman Catholic Church. Newman published the Apologia Pro Vita Sua, his autobiography, in 1864, and it's widely considered to be one of the great autobiographies of all time. Leo XIII, who was successor to Pius IX, made him a cardinal the year after Pius IX died in 1879. Another reaction went in the opposite direction. John Nelson Darby, born in 1800, founded the Plymouth Brethren in Dublin in 1828 and Plymouth, England in 1830. And this was a group of believers very like the Pietists whom we saw in the lecture on Bismarck, who rejected the formality of the established churches. To the brethren, the true invisible church was to come out of the apostate visible church, rejecting such forms as priesthood and sacraments. Now Cambridge, my old university, much more sensible, ignored the Oxford movement contemptuously. Cambridge tutors called the Oxford religious activists gushers. And they produced instead a curious culture of practical Christianity and observation of nature. Bachelor dons, who were necessarily clergymen, collected botanical or geological specimens and published papers in scientific journals. And this was Darwin's real scientific education. He had spent the years 1826 to 1828 in Edinburgh trying to be a medical student, but dissection sickened him, and the lectures were awful. I quote from his autobiography, "These were intolerably dull. Dr. Duncan's lectures on materia medica at 8 o'clock on a winter's morning are something fearful to remember. Dr. Monroe made his lectures on human anatomy as dull as he was himself, and the subject disgusted me," unquote. Cambridge proved the perfect environment for Darwin. He did almost no formal work at all. He spent so much time hunting, riding, and drinking that his father wrote him in disgust, quote, "You care for nothing but shooting, dogs, and rat catching, and you will be a disgrace to your family," unquote. He had free time, however, to do what he had always done as a child, to collect specimens of all sorts of animals and plants. As he describes it, "The passion for collecting, which leads a man to be a systematic naturalist, a virtuoso, or a miser, was very strong in me," unquote. Now, his particular passion was the collection of beetles. He collected them with a kind of frenzy and employed his friends to collect the needed specimens when he was away from Cambridge. Darwin would, I think, today be called a nerd or a dork. But he was a champion nerd, and here is one incredible story from his autobiography. I quote, "But no pursuit at Cambridge was followed with nearly so much eagerness or gave me so much pleasure as collecting beetles. It was the mere passion for collecting, for I did not dissect them, and rarely compared their external characters with published descriptions, but got them named anyhow. I will give a proof of my zeal. One day, on tearing off some old bark, I saw 2 rare beetles, and seized one in each hand. Then I saw a third, a new kind, which I could not bear to lose, so that I popped the one which I held in my right hand into my mouth. Alas, it ejected some intensely acrid fluid, which burnt my tongue, so that I was forced to spit the beetle out, which was lost, as was the third one."